All right, folks, we're gonna make it do what it do. Let me make sure all of my information, my equipment, and everything is up to par. Looks like we're good. Looks like Cindy and Enthused Zola. I'm asking a question, and I don't expect this to go well. Yerp says Enthused. I don't expect this to go well, but we're gonna talk about it. Rennie the Roo. Here's the question I'm asking. As you see on the monitor behind me, Black Lives Matter and President Trump. Let me turn my screen around. But as you can see behind me, what the hell? I can't figure out how to turn it around. Okay, but as you can see, we're talking about Black Lives Matter and President Trump. There we go. So, what the hell are we comparing Black Lives Matter and President Trump for? And this may not go well, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When Black Lives Matter during the summer of 2020 raised a ton of money, a ton of charity figures, a lot of folks suggested that they raised a lot of money and they committed nefarious activities with the money. They bought yachts, they bought luxury items, and virtually none of it went to help the African American community. And that was what the money was raised for. So why do we bring Trump into this? Well, it's starting to appear as if he potentially raised hundreds of millions of dollars to the tune of at least 250 million plus in regards to helping secure the integrity of the election for 2020 and possibly restoring him to office because Biden was supposed to be illegitimate. And now it's looking like the money that he collected or that his campaign collected was not used for that purpose. So I have to ask this question. And like I said, I know this audience is not trying to hear that. Nobody wants to hear this, but I have to ask this. We've got to be able to see both sides of an issue. If you can point out that Black Lives Matter collected all of this money under false pretenses, if Trump collected money under false pretenses, should he be held accountable? Is this something we should actually discuss, or should we just ignore it or potentially sweep it under the rug? Finally, you see he's a complete fraud, says Grassfed. Everybody wants Joe. I don't believe that. Medic66 says 6 mentions. Kimberly Guilfoyle, a former Fox News correspondent, commentator, $60,000 she was paid just for announcing that Donald Trump Jr. was coming to stage. Folks, they collected $250 million in regards to trying to get Trump in office in 2020. That's fine. But if the money was not used for what they collected it for, is this something we have no business talking about? Are we pointing to the failures of the Biden administration? And there are plenty of failures of the Biden administration. I'm not denying that. But does that mean we ignore this? That's what we're going to be talking about. The box is open fairly. 52 cents is back. Fresh off of band. Fresh off of band. What's going on, man?
Somebody won his appeal. Woo, woo, woo.
I'm so happy to have you back. Okay, you hear what we're talking about. What do you think?
I think that if I donated the money and I have a problem with it, then I should be able to seek recourse. Nobody else should try to seek it on my behalf.
So if a person did not donate money to President Trump in regards to the election of 2020, are you suggesting that they have no right to say anything or ask any questions?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
They're not
I'm
out
asking you
anything.
that. Fair point. I'm only asking you that though because I've heard literally tons of right wingers bringing up Black Lives Matter, collecting money and not giving it to African Americans, and they didn't donate anything. I actually had a broadcast here on my live stream, and folks were going insane about how corrupt Black Lives Matter is. As Medic66 just said in the comments, they bought 6 mansions with that money that they collected. I'm assuming
That's in their
Medic66.
name.
Huh?
That's in their name. BLM, buy luxury mansions. They told you in advance.
But you're not supposed to be able to say anything about that, right?
You know what? I didn't donate any money to them, so I got no skin in the game.
Okay, and I get your point, but at this point, it's kind of late. The right wing has tore Black Lives Matter a new one. Everyone from Bill O'Reilly to all of the Fox News correspondents have had multiple segments, multiple um, newscasts about Black Lives Matter using that money inappropriately. So if Trump did the same thing, you would have to expect that from the left, right?
But what is the right doing about it other than lip
We don't
service?
know what you're suggesting. What is the right doing about Trump or
Be,
Black Lives Matter?
about BLM.
I don't. You
What
got
is anybody actually doing about? I don't see a national television show prime time discussing what BLM did with their money. And I didn't give any money to BLM, so I don't care if they bought lollipops and pixie sticks. I don't care.
fair. That's fair enough. But I'm just simply saying, despite what you're saying in regards to yourself personally, the right has constantly harped on what BLM did with the money. Just not you, but they've lodged tons of complaints.
Well, it's not my business because I didn't contribute. So, and I
Okay,
didn't
fair
contribute to
enough.
Trump either. So I'm an equal opportunity offender. I offend everybody the same.
So let me ask you this question then, because I believe it is a crime, whether we're talking Black Lives Matter or Trump. I'm not trying to exonerate or defend either one of them, but I believe it's a crime if you collect money. And because I said this when we were talking about Black Lives Matter on my previous streams, that I believe that they should potentially face tax or wire fraud for collecting money for a cause that they didn't donate money to that cause. If Trump collected money for this cause and they can show that the money did not go to that, should he be criminally held accountable?
I don't know so much criminal. I financially maybe. You know, they busted how many mobsters? They didn't bust them for killing people or extorting money. They busted them for tax evasion.
Okay.
You
And
know,
that could
that's how they
happen
brought
here.
down all the big mobsters.
And that absolutely could, and I get what you're saying because Al Capone went down for tax evasion. But what I'm saying is that could happen here. Remember, there's a lot of folks that do not like Trump, certainly on the left, but there's also the Liz Cheney's, and he has a significant amount of enemies on the right. So my guess is they're looking for an angle to get this guy, and if he gives them angles that they can go after, you would expect them to go after that. So if he collected money for this and they can 60. Let me just come back to that. $60,000 for Kimberly Guilfoyle to simply announce that her boyfriend was coming to the stage. Does that make sense?
No, but nothing that's done in sports world or Hollywood or politics makes sense.
Fair
You
enough.
know,
And I mean, and I'm
product.
just asking that because Kimberly Guilfoyle is by no means an A-list celebrity. I mean, she's not exactly Jennifer Lopez or somebody. They paid her money like Bruce Buffer, when he says in the UFC fights, or what does the guy say? And now
Let's
coming
get
to the
ready to
ring or something
rumble.
like that. Huh?
The let's get ready to rumble guy.
Yeah, yeah, they paid her like that. They paid her money like that.
Yeah, well, they rumbled. you know, maybe you'd ought to take a day and let's talk about antiques or let's talk about I don't know, engines and Cadillacs, how junky they've been since 1980. Let's talk about shit like that really matters. Stuff that you and I can change. We can not go buy a Cadillac with a 468 or a 4100 and be okay.
Well, we can, but see, that's the thing is we can attempt to change this. Come election time, come November, we're expecting a red wave. Despite me being a liberal, I'm willing to concede there'll probably be a red wave. Is that not change?
Well, how's it going to change? Biden's approval rating's at 33%. Gas is up 50%. Food's up 12%. I mean, how can it not change? There's
Right, and
people,
that's what
there's
I'm
old people.
suggesting. You said let's talk about something we can change. If they get rid of the Democrats and put in a red wave in 2022 later this year, is that not change that's implemented by the people?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that, and then I got to get my hearse out and go dig up more Biden voters. And it's just a lot of work.
Well, right now, looking at what's going on with the investigation, listening to what his own attorney general, Jim Barr stated that there was no evidence of dead people voting. What are we supposed to do when his own attorney general tells him that what you're talking about is bullshit? What are we supposed to do with that?
They're all like I've tried to concede to you before. Biden, Trump, they're all crooks. It's just which one runs the world better when they're crooks.
Okay.
And I,
Well,
I think
I
Trump did
get
us a better.
the notion that they're crooks, but he's suggesting that dead folks voted. He suggested that the Dominion machine. I mean, his attorney general is saying that everything he suggested is bullshit. So it's one thing to be a crook, but I guess I'm asking a question. It appears as if he was deliberately lying to the people. That's what I'm suggesting. Am I getting that wrong?
Who knows? Yeah,
Attorney General Barr. He seems to know. Attorney General Jim Barr, his daughter is on video saying that she actually took to heart the information she was being given that he did not win. His attorneys, his campaign manager, they're all suggesting that they told that guy there is no evidence of what you believe took place. What would make him say something otherwise when all of the people that are responsible for fact checking this stuff for him is telling him this is not true?
there is no good answer. It's just like, okay, the other night I went out and did karaoke wearing my Trump 2024 fuck your feelings t-shirt. And I'm
Okay,
singing, I'm rapping 50 Cent songs. Well,
okay.
some guy
Which
posted
song?
on.
Which I gotta hold you accountable. Which song were you rapping karaoke?
I do little bit in the club, candy shop, my neck, my back. I do Me
Okay,
So Horny
okay.
by Two Live Crew. All the good stuff. But anyways, a guy posted on Facebook that I know is a blatant liberal, and he didn't know who I was per se, but people in this town know who I am. And he said, I just really got confused. He said, I saw a man in a Trump shirt rapping a 50 Cent song, and he said, I don't know how to take this. And somebody said, well, that's 52 Cent. I know who that is. He said, that's 52 Cent. He does that all the time. And he is a Trump supporter. And I asked the guy, I said, okay, what are you trying to say? Because I support Trump, I'm a racist for singing a 50 Cent song? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I'm sick of us not getting along. You're a cool guy. I could go out and drink with you all night until they drag us home in an Uber, shove us in the front yard. We'd
I
be golden.
appreciate that.
We would we would never say an ill word to one another, and we would have a blast. You
Fair
know,
enough.
I'm sick of the country not doing this. I mean,
Well, let me interject and say this, and you're not the first person on the right that suggests that we need to harmonize and actually unify again. But here's what I have to question or push back on. I Every time I talk about the tweets, the nicknames, the nervous Nancy's, the Sleepy Joes, the crazy Bernies, all of my MAGA friends on the right say they love that. So I guess the question I'm trying to ask is how can we come together with the guy at the top of the with the guy as commander in chief potentially in 2024, potentially coming back? How can we all come together when he's acting in such a divisive manner?
sticks and stones may break my bones.
That's
You know,
not
if
coming together. That's if
if
you
you
got
want
to
to call me
ignore what.
if you called me a cracker, the only thing I would point out to you is I'm a tasty Ritz cracker. I'm no saltine.
Okay,
You got to let it roll
fair
off your
enough.
back.
Okay, well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that if you got to ignore the insults from your neighbor is not trying to come together. That's you trying to come together. I think that sounds almost like Martin Luther King saying, "Turn the other cheek." But if he's still launching insults, and your goal is for us to all come together, that means we all need to stop launching insults, not turn the other cheek, because if he's launching insults, it's not going to be long before somebody from the other side launches insults back at him. That's not coming together. You got to be in favor of stopping the insults to get what you want.
Well, our commander in chief, if he's going to insult anybody, it needs to be a foreign government. It doesn't need to be us. And I can agree with that. But I like Trump because he's a prick. And when he deals with China, he's a prick. When he deals with Russia, he's a prick. That's what Trump does.
Okay.
And that,
well, I will say this. You rarely ever see, whether it's in the drug game, whether it's in the mafia, whether it's in corporate business, you rarely see a prick operate smoothly. A prick generally has tons of enemies. So if your goal is for us to come together, you're going to have to find a way for him to give you the economy, give you the country you want, lead the country in the right direction without being a prick. As long as he continues being a prick, which you're suggesting that you like, you're not going to get that unity.
no, there's two things that should have happened in the last 3-4 years. They should have taken away Trump's Twitter, and they should have taken away Biden's executive order pen, and we'd be in a heck of a lot better shape.
Okay. All right. I don't necessarily have any comeback for that. I don't disagree with that. But look, I got to move it on, as always.
All right, brother.
Good to see you off band. Catch you on the next
I'm out of jail, baby. I'm on the street.
We'll have to kick it sometime. Okay, look.
They did all that, though. I didn't see that comment there. We were unified with any other president, though. We weren't unified with any other president. So you're suggesting that since we weren't unified with presidents in the past, we should just stay divided? Should we not make an attempt at unifying Jay Walker? Latest news is United States is in the running for Oscar. I don't get that one. So, folks, let me ask this question before we move on. I got other folks in the box. We're going to bring them on. In regards to what you see posted behind me, I got a picture of Trump right next to Black Lives Matter. Now, we know that Trump did not favor Black Lives Matter for any reason, and Black Lives Matter did not favor Trump. So it's not to illustrate or suggest that these two entities are friends with each other. I'm just simply pointing out for folks who just joined the live stream. When Black Lives Matter during the summer of 2020 collected tons of money, I believe about $90 million for charity purposes, supposedly to help the African American community. It has become a big story as of late that most of that money they collected did nothing to further African American causes. And a lot of folks on the right have been holding them accountable and suggesting action should be taken for them raising so much money in the name of charity, even though they've been purchasing luxury homes and mansions and things like that with it. Trump's picture is up there because now the investigation that they're doing into January 6th is starting to come out. And I'm not claiming that this is actual fact. I'm not saying it's fiction. I'm just suggesting what's being floated around from that investigation. And I know my audience, my MAGA audience, probably isn't even watching the investigation. So this may actually be news to you. But the information is starting to appear as if Trump raised $250 million plus, over $250 million in regards to the 2020 election, under the guise that that money would be used to hire lawyers and potentially get him reelected. And it appears that that money was not used for that purpose. Very similar to what we're suggesting on Black Lives Matter. I'm just simply saying, be able to call a strike no matter who is at the plate. Call a spade a spade. That's what I'm asking. Should he be held accountable? We're going back to the box. Miss Goddess, a regular viewer of the program, we'll start with you first.
It's got BLM in the comments. Miss Goddess, good evening.
Hey, good evening. Yeah,
What do you think?
Trump should be held accountable along with everything else.
Fair enough.
Everything
I mean,
else.
do you believe it's a possibility what they're alleging may have some validity to it?
Yeah, anything's possible, especially with Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it because I don't like him. I'm not saying it for those reasons, but call a spade a spade. I mean, you can't have it both ways. you know, you're not above the law, and that's what he thinks. He felt like he is above the law. Maybe he is
Yeah.
above the law, but I mean,
And
it's only fair.
go And see, the point I'm trying to make for my audience, and like I said, I understand my beloved audience, my MAGA audience. This is not something you want to hear. If you
Right.
particularly watch right wing media outlets, this is something that's probably not even being discussed very much. And I talked to my audience the day of the prime time telecast of the January 6th investigation, and most of you guys were not even watching it. So, and this
Mm-mm.
is one of the things I suggested then. Just
Mm-hmm.
because you're not watching this stuff does not mean it is not happening. And this is something that's coming out of the developments from that is that he may have raised as much as $250 million. And keep
Mm-hmm.
in mind, you're raising money right now. I don't know what is
Mm-hmm.
being raised for, but 80810 80822 for you guys who get his text messages. I'm on both of his lists. I still
Mm-hmm.
get texts from him almost every other day raising money.
Mm-hmm.
What is he
Mm-hmm.
raising for? We don't know. Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Goddess. So you're suggesting there may be some validity to it. Are we talking criminal?
Why not? For everything. I mean, that's not the only thing that he's been held accountable for right now. But add that to the pot or everything else. I mean, it's just not looking good. Like, and Republicans get so angry. Like, and then the first thing they go up throw, oh, what about BLM? What about BLM? What about BLM? What about Trump? Okay, hold him accountable for the $250 million. Like, stop being one sided about everything. And like you said, most of them, they didn't sit to watch that hearing. They don't because they can't accept the truth. They can't accept the truth. Like, to them, Trump does nothing wrong, and he's steady collecting money. They steady donating money to him right now,
Yeah.
right now as we speak.
What do you think about the claim that I don't know if you know who Kimberly Guilfoyle is, but she's the girlfriend of Donald Trump Jr. Apparently, according to this investigation, she was paid a whopping $60,000 at a gathering just to announce that he was coming to the stage. They paid her $60,000.
Wow, wow. I don't see that as. I mean, that was for like a guest appearance, right? Was that like a guest appearance?
It was something. It had to be something.
I don't find that being like fraudulent. They offer her the money. She
No.
appealed.
But if it's no, it's not fraudulent to give her this inflated salary.
Right,
What's fraudulent is just like purchase, just like if Black Lives Matter, if the founder of that organization, and I'm not a fan of the organization at all, I believe in the movement. I wouldn't suggest donating a dime to Black Lives Matter, the organization. But if the head of that organization buys a mansion, no, it's not a crime at all. But if
right,
the money came from a ill-gotten source, that's where the crime is. And with Kimberly Guilfoyle, no, she didn't commit a crime at all.
right,
But if the money that was given to her came from ill-gotten sources, then the folks who paid her are the ones we should be talking about.
right,
Yeah,
right. That's understandable. Hopefully, I
yeah.
answered your question right because I don't
Oh,
see her as being at fault. But like you said, where whoever sent the money can be at fault.
yeah,
So I have a question. Do you still feel as if Trump not going to do any time in jail? You still feel
yeah.
like that?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I mean, keep in mind, I believe Hunter Biden probably has committed nefarious activity too. I just still believe that at their level, they do not do time. I believe in Trump's case. First of all, I said it on my other broadcast. I personally do not think it's safe to lock up Trump. I would not suggest locking Trump up. It just you talk about trying. I was talking to my last caller, 52 cents, about unity as opposed to division. That would divide the hell out of this country, putting Trump in jail because there's a lot of folks who don't think he did anything to begin with. So I'm not a fan of locking him up. If they do believe that they have him, if they have him good to right on doing this, what I would suggest is getting him to simply agree that he'll stay out of politics. That's what I would advise if I was, if I was some type of advisor or something on the left, is to get him to simply state that he'll stay out of politics, he'll stay away from campaigns. You can keep the money because you're not going to get that shit back. You can keep the money, and let's be clear. Just like with Hillary Clinton, and I believe Hillary Clinton was involved in some nefarious activities too. At the end of the day, people just want you to get out of the way. If Trump suggested that he decided not to run, I don't trust the media or I don't trust the swamp on the right, I'm getting out of this, that investigation would probably fade away. It's not that they really want to lock these people up. They just want them out of the way. Just like with Hillary Clinton. The minute she got out of politics, all of that lock her up stuff, for the most part, it has faded away. And that will happen if Biden does not come back in 2024. All of the Hunter Biden stuff, they just want you out the way. That's my opinion. But in regards to whether he'll be locked up, no, I don't think so.
Well, I read somewhere where Biden is considering coming back for 2024. I sure did.
You
I
think that
sure
Biden
did.
comes back in 2024?
I'm just saying what I read. I did. There was an article that's saying that he's thinking about coming back for 2024. Hopefully not. But I
No,
have a
I
question.
I don't even think most liberals want him to come back for 2024 unless
No,
something completely changes in the country. Now, clearly, the liberals don't want Trump; they take Biden over Trump. But in
right.
terms of liberals, if you got a pool of liberals, they're not going to pick Biden out the pool. I'll give you the last word. I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word.
Okay. All right. I'm just like kind of like curious because, like, with basically what you're saying, if Trump get locked up, it could cause a whole lot of chaos. So, um, they can't go back to the Capitol because it's protected. So,
Yeah, they can. Hell, they can't go back to the Capitol. They
so,
can go ahead.
and if they do go back to the Capitol, wouldn't you think that the next time they're going to call the National Guards out there? I don't think that they want that to happen again. I'm sure it's going to be body bags. They're not
Do
going to get.
you realize, keep in mind, when we're talking about Biden and Trump, these are the two choices we have. Do you realize how many folks with badges on, how many folks in our military wearing camouflage actually side with Trump? You can have division in the National
Wow.
Guard as well.
I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. That's
Okay.
just that's just my feeling. Like
Okay.
I honestly don't see that happening.
Okay.
I
I
don't.
January 6th, and you didn't see January 6th happening either, did you?
And if they go back to and if they do go to the Capitol, what they're going to do? They're going to climb that gate, like seriously. So what they're going to do? Just stand out there and just climb the walls or whatever? Like I don't
You,
see what they'll
you,
get
you,
out of it.
let me say it this way before I let you go. When you look at what happened on January 6th and you look at how close they got to what they planned, you think they would not come back with a better plan, would not culminate it with larger numbers, maybe this time add weapons. They've gotten a chance to see what they did wrong and correct it. The notion that they won't come back, I'm not going to necessarily go with that. I do believe if you piss any group off strong enough, they will come back. That's just my take on it.
I want to see it happen. Put them in
No,
jail.
I
I
got
want
to
to see
go.
it happen. I will be at home again watching it on TV. I want to see
All
that
right.
happen. Have a
Let's
good
hope.
day.
Let's hope you get that. Let's hope you get that luxury. I gotta go though.
That's just my opinion. All right, good
All
day.
right. You have a good night.
Let's hope what Miss Goddess is talking about. Let's hope what Miss Goddess is talking about never comes to fruition. Maybe she's right. Hey, at the end of the day, we're both speculating, and that's the whole purpose here is to let folks get their point across. I like to get mine across, and nobody gets censored here. 100% free speech. But I do believe if any party, any group of people gets pissed off enough, you never know where they'll take it. I used to hear all the time before January 6th. Well, you see what black folks do. They burn down places, they riot and things like that. I think the Michigan mandates, Michigan mask mandates when they surrounded the Capitol building, and of course January 6th will show you that if anybody, doesn't matter if they're black, white, women, whatever they are, if you believe that you're being violated, folks are capable of this shit. Doesn't matter what race they are. Okay, Bill Zimmerman, I believe you're new to the you're being violated.
Caller,
Folks are capable.
you are welcome. Okay, turn your volume down. A lot of feedback. Okay, I don't know if he's coming through or not. It's locked up there. You're out of touch. Get a clue, says for Zach 9. You're welcome to come in the box and tell me how I'm out of touch. I tend to disagree with you, but that's fine. You're welcome to get your point across any way you want to. I don't know what happened to the gentleman there. We were trying to get him on live, and it looks like it's frozen or locked up there. So we'll move it on to Bill Zimmerman. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Let's try it again here. Maybe it'll let him in, but for some reason it's frozen in terms of letting him through. Bradford Shroud, I believe you're new to the broadcast as well.
That I am. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. So have you been listening to what's been going on?
I tried to do the video. Can you see me or not?
Yes, I can. I can see you.
Oh damn! I can't see myself. It's weird.
I can see you. I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, the ceiling fan above you, 5-bladed ceiling fan. I can see you perfectly.
Okay. Well, sorry about the hair.
Hey,
No,
it doesn't matter.
I've come across
Go
you a
ahead.
couple times before. And I'll just ask. Well, like you were saying, like if people did something wrong, yeah, held accountable. All full disclosure, I voted for Trump both times.
Fair enough. Okay.
Here's the thing and that's what everybody says, the whole stop the steal thing. If you can think of one state over the past probably 50 years that has contested every voting cycle, what state comes to mind? Like every time.
What do you mean when you say contested every voting cycle?
Well, it's a swing state, like every time. Like Democrats and Republicans have won it, like it's flopped back and forth. Florida, right?
Okay, Florida. Yeah, Florida tends to be a swing state, but I don't know about every election.
That's my point. I'm getting. That's kind of my point. I'm getting. So Florida, right? I mean,
Okay.
Obama won it twice, right? I believe.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know for sure. I'm not looking at the electoral numbers, but what's your point on?
Well, my point is Florida, what they did, they changed that all the mail-in ballots had to be in that Monday before, and what they did that Monday, what they were doing was they started verifying addresses and signatures, right?
Okay.
And then they took the ballot, and they weren't counting ballots on Monday. All they were doing was verifying signatures and addresses. So then they took the ballot, they put them in boxes to be counted the next day. So
in the state of Florida,
is,
we're just talking specifically about the state of Florida right now, right?
Right now, yes. What I'm saying, like before Florida, like what we'd had to wait till like December before anybody knew who won Florida. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So my point is, we went from like one Florida to 5, and Florida wasn't even one of the Floridas. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Did they? But constitutionally, in a states' rights oriented country, did those other states have a right to do what they did?
Well, no, they didn't, because with the elections are held, like the laws and everything are dictated by the legislature, and the legislature never voted on it as far as like the mail-in ballots. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like
So
to expand the mail-in ballot.
Okay, let's assume what you're saying is true. If they, and I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying I agree with it at all, but I'm gonna say, for the sake of argument, let's say what you're saying is true. If these other states, what they did went against voting election laws, is there not a chain of command we go through to have that addressed right up to it, including the Supreme Court?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So he took it to court and he made the same suggestion you're saying, right?
Yeah. But it never made it to the Supreme Court, though.
Right, but it would have made it to regular court and the appellate court. The Supreme Court stated that they were going to let the appellate court, the lower court's ruling, stand. They didn't listen to it.
No, I understand that. Well,
right.
my point is though, you can understand why some people are like, something's fishy whenever he was up in all those states until literally like 2 a.m. I mean, you kind of understand.
I mean, I understand that it doesn't look the way it should, or it looks fishy, or
Right.
however you want to say. But at
But
the
here,
same time, there's a
but here's
lot
the
of people. There's a lot of people in our court systems that get ruled that lose cases based on things that they were for certain it should have went the other way. That's how
right.
our
No,
court process works.
no. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is like, there's a so like everybody was saying like absentee and mail-in ballots are the same. They're not. You can mail in your absentee ballot, but so like I'm from Missouri, so when you do a mail-in or an absentee ballot, you have to get it notarized, and
Okay.
that's where and a lot of these states don't do that.
Okay.
Also,
But
never
you're still talking about violation of election law, though.
right, yeah,
And I'm
to
and
to an
I'm talking.
extent.
We're talking about the Trump administration that has access to all the lawyers in the world. They took this to what 60 plus courts and they lost. I mean, what else can we do? We can't force the courts to rule the way they want them to rule.
No, I understand. No, I'm just saying, but what I'm trying to say is like, can you kind of see where like people are like have questions about this stuff?
I mean, hey, I'm African American. I know what it looks like to see the courts rule in a way I think is crazy. I understand your point.
Well, I
I
mean,
understand your point.
like historically speaking, yeah, like way back,
Yeah. I mean,
um,
I remember as an adult, I remember being an adult and watching the courts rule that the guys who beat up Rodney King did nothing wrong. I totally get your point, but at
yeah,
the end of the day, you got to go with what the courts say.
no, I understand, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, the argument people like to say with the whole like mass mail-in voting, um, like they want to say, well, if it's good enough for the military, then it's good enough for us, and I'm like, well, that yeah, but to a point with like the military, people in the military are from like all over the country to where, um their votes will not affect a very specific state. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
Whereas like, and that's what I'm getting at too is like, why in
yeah.
a lot of the states are mail-in ballots counted
Yeah, I mean,
last?
I get every point you're trying to make. I guess
Yeah.
the way I would put it is this would be a lot stronger of a case if, let's say, right now with Joe Biden in office, and then Trump tried to run against him while Joe Biden was president, and all of this came up. What makes this what happened in 2020 look bad is this stuff happened while Trump was president. Trump was in control. You had Republican governors like in the
Well,
state of
y-
Georgia. I mean, he had three of the people on the Supreme Court he personally appointed, and they won't listen to his case. He has a
well,
six to
okay.
three majority.
So can I counter that point? Like we
Sure.
just saw something that happened. Do you think that those judges didn't think that? Well, I mean, look what happened now with just the Roe v. Wade thing. Like they've got people outside their homes protesting, and
Okay.
one got arrested with a gun outside of Kavanaugh's house or around it. I'm just
Okay.
saying. Do you think that they might have not? They might have been like, well, let's like you said, they kicked it to the
You're talking
appellate.
about fear. You're talking about ruling based on fear.
Yes,
No,
I
I
mean,
don't believe that because I would say no because when you look at some of the rulings of the past, whether it's the Civil Rights Act or Topeka
right?
versus the Board of Case, I mean they've made controversial rulings in the past. This
Oh
would
yeah,
not be the
no,
first
no,
time
yeah.
a Supreme Court.
But
Yeah, and
now, and I might be, I would say I'm a pretty big history buff. I love history. And I just don't know, like back then, if there was really that much like recording, as if like were those if those judges were ever like threatened or like
I'm
protested,
sure they were. I'm
or like
absolutely
you know what I
sure they
mean.
were threatened.
But that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
saying.
sure
Like
they were threatened.
nowadays you can't hardly jaywalk without 12 people streaming you
Yeah.
jaywalking. It's you know what I'm saying. Um,
I'll tell you something. It's interesting you bring that up because in Idaho, they just had a case where it looks like you had I guess, a far right group that was going to commit an act of riot on an LGBT gathering, and the police arrested the rioters, and the police are saying they're getting death threats. So, I mean, I have no doubt that the Supreme Court ruled to give African American civil rights or women the right to vote and things like. Yeah, I'm sure they got death threats. That
It
to be a
it's just
Supreme
this.
Court judge, death threats are part of that job. You're
Well,
going to
yeah,
get those. There's no way around it.
but at the same time, with that, you are not allowed. It's a law. You're not allowed to like protest in front of a judge's house. I mean, that's a law. That's an old law dating back to like the 1950s, I believe. So, I
Well, then
mean,
they
that
need
it's
to, yeah,
intimidation.
they need to make sure that law is being enforced. I get your point on that. They need to make sure
Yeah,
that law is being enforced. But I'm just
and
simply saying, as a Supreme Court judge, you're gonna everything you rule on, folks are
oh
passionate
yeah,
about. That's
no,
how it got
and
to you. So death threats
oh
are
no,
part of
no,
the job.
I understand that, but I mean, but at the same time, you gotta see it. Just like the Roe v. Wade thing right now, people are trying to say, "Oh, we're on a public street or on the sidewalk," and it's like, well, that doesn't matter whenever you're trying to intimidate a judge. I mean,
Yeah,
that goes from Supreme Court down to the Circuit Court. Like you can't do that to judges. I mean, people do and try, but
yeah.
you know what
I'm
I'm
not a
saying?
fan of yeah, I'm not a fan of that either, but at the end of the day, yeah, they need to definitely push harder on the local authorities to do something about that. Shit, move to a right wing state if you got to,
Well,
whatever the
here
case may be. But
and
go ahead.
just like, well, no, sorry, I didn't try to, but I'm saying like that came from, remember like what Chuck Schumer said like a couple weeks ago. He named Kavanaugh and he said you will pay the price. That was him. He was at rallying with people and he said you will pay the price to Kavanaugh. And then like the next week, a guy's near his house with a gun, intending on going there. So
Well, I mean,
and
and
I
I'm
and I
not
bring
a yeah, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. But you don't. Here's what you don't want. You don't want something happening to Kavanaugh and the liberals trying to spin Chuck Schumer's words like the right has done with Trump in January 6th. Well, he didn't mean it to go that
But
way, or he wasn't saying go do that.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and there's been plenty,
Yeah.
and just saying two Democrats too. Like just gonna say like Maxine Water when she said you need to get in the face of the Trump administration, say they're not welcome, and then Presley when she
Yeah,
said,
I'm not. Listen, we
no,
could
no, I
definitely.
know,
I mean, you could. Yeah, there's a bunch of liberals that have said crazy shit. I mean, Rudolph
yeah,
Giuliani, let's have trial by combat. I get your point. I'm just
yeah,
simply saying I'm not defending either of these things.
no, no, I know. I'm just saying like people need to step back and realize that um you gotta, if you're gonna, what's the old saying? Don't throw a stone in a glass house, so to
Yeah,
speak. You know.
and that's the
Um,
whole and that's the whole purpose of this piece is in regards to calling
and
a
here's the
spade
thing,
a spade.
and I'm not saying Trump wasn't a controversial person at all. I'm not saying that at all. I mean,
Okay,
he was an asshole. I'll say that. No,
fair
I'll
enough.
straight up say it.
All right.
But I didn't vote for him because, well, to be fair, I kind of thought we needed an asshole at the top. It's in some regards. You know what I mean? You're not.
Well,
Um,
and you do realize there are consequences to being an asshole, and Mar-a-Lago might be one of those. I got to part ways with you. I will give you the last word, but I got to move on. Go ahead.
I don't know. I appreciate you letting me on. It's like I said, I've seen you before coming down, and you seem very level-headed. Even though I give Democrats all kinds of shit, and you give Republicans.
You can't start the program off by asking for unity and then admit you give them shit. Listen, we gotta find a way to come up with a way of
Oh no,
reaching across the aisle. That's
no,
all
we
I'm
give.
saying.
That's what I'm saying. We give each other shit, but at the same time, we like talking right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's baby steps, but we're going, man. Hey, appreciate you. You take care. Keep going. Of
Welcome back anytime. You have a good one, Brad. Bradford
course.
Stroud. Okay.
Ezra Shroud, good conversation. And like I say, always, every day, folks, it's not about whether we agree or disagree. It's about using this little tiny corner of social media to be able to reach across the aisle and have a conversation civilly because they're not doing that shit in Washington. We're trying to do it here. Let's move back to the box. So, real quick before I go on to CMB, Wolverine USA. I do see you in there. It's going to be a pleasure talking to Wolverine. CMB Corrado, we'll go it to you first. And folks, you want to hear Wolverine. We had a conversation earlier during the lunch break broadcast. Wolverine is very passionate about his topics. This is where free speech is going to mean everything I've always promised you. Wolverine is not going to disappoint. Okay, CMB Corrado, good evening. CMB, CMB, are you there? It's looks like it's trying to. I like you having one person at a time. Yes, Bradford Shroud. It was good talking to you. I definitely try to keep one person at a time. I don't want folks talking over each other. I want to make sure all of my guests get a chance to get their point across and have civil dialogue. Sometimes if they agree, I'll bring up someone that wants to talk to them with a counterpoint. But I always ask first, do you mind if I bring someone on? And I do not allow folks to talk all over each other because we want to let folks speak. Trump is not a god. Okay, fair enough. I don't know what happened with CMB. I was trying to let him in, but we're going to... There we go. All right. We're going to really go deep now. We got Wolverine USA. We talked earlier. Wolverine had a lot of interesting things to say. The comments went wild. Once again,
from free speech. We welcome this type of conversation. We like to open dialogue. Wolverine, welcome back.
What's up, man?
You the man. You the man. Have you been listening to the broadcast?
No, I've been working, bro. I had to pull my bootstraps up.
Okay. Well, this is very similar to what we were talking about earlier in regards to the potential that Trump has taken the same path as Black Lives Matter, collected a lot of money, $250 million plus, and it's starting to look like the money was not used for what they were suggesting it was being collected for. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was a big Trump guy, and I'm not anymore. I'm not. This whole thing has exposed the right and the left for who they are, and I'm now disassociated with either class. I'm not interested in voting anymore. I think it's trash.
Why did you go from being a big Trump guy to not being interested in him anymore? What happened?
Well, all the theatrics and everything's gotten to be where, and what happened on January 6th, it all just got left a bitter taste. And at the end of the day, if you wind it all up into a ball, they're all about money. It really doesn't matter about the people. If it did, he would have stood up more. We wouldn't have people in the gulag for 8 months, 12, 13 months right now with no due process. And it just seems like anybody who's involved with politics right now, all I see for them is gallows, man. I'm back in the beginning of the Americas where tyrannical people were smashing down on normal people, and it seems like it's gotten there again. And I'll tell you what the real problem is and why this election is so up in the air, and there's so many people that are pissed off. I can only tell you through my lens, but I can tell you very specifically why I'm done with voting, done with Trump, I'm done with the right, I'm done with the left. They're all acting like asses. And when I was up there on January 6th in Washington, D.C., sitting in my hotel room the night before all that shit went down, we were watching CNN, Fox, all of them with their numbers up on the TV, and Trump was whipping his ass, okay? Then, middle of the night, one commercial break, and it all turned around to where he was getting his ass whipped. Everybody started shutting down the counting, and it got real weird in one damn commercial break.
Let me ask you something, because you said earlier when you first came on about people sitting in the gulag. Are you talking about the folks who got arrested for being at the Capitol building sitting in without due process?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now the question I wanted to ask in regards to that, and I guess I would ask folks in the audience too, based on the notion that those folks who were arrested inside the Capitol building were there in support of Trump, were there in support of what they thought was an improperly held election. Do you believe President Trump raising $250+ million should pay to hire them lawyers and reach out to them and their families? Do you believe Trump should do anything to help those people out?
What do you think would happen if he did?
I know what's happening when he does not.
What do you think it would be worse now if he kept doing what he's doing now, or if he stepped up and did that? What how much static? What action would bring more static?
Well, he's already suggested, he already talked about pardons anyway. He's already publicly said if he was in position, he would give them pardons.
Yeah, but he can't.
No, he said
That's just
if he
blowing hot
gets
air, man.
reelected, he indicated that if he was to get reelected, he would consider giving those folks pardons. So right now, while they're serving time, do you believe he should do anything? Should he call them? Should he reach out
But
to their family?
let me ask you a question. How do you feel about those guys that are sitting in jail with no court dates for 13 months? How does that make you feel?
In regards to what they're going through, I don't know exactly what their case is.
No, I'm not
I know.
talking about. I'm
I
not
mean, I'm
talking
trying.
about.
Yeah, let me finish. Let me answer it. I know that some of them have been released and have been rearrested because they were already caught on Q websites and doing things that were in violation of what they were released for. So I don't know as far as each individual. I'd have to look at it on a case by case basis. Everybody should get due process. I
Yeah,
repeat,
but there's
everybody.
guys. There's guys in there that haven't had any court dates, that haven't had any process, and if I was liberal or I was right, which I'm not anymore, I would be terrified. If I was a liberal or not, a right winger or not, to see Americans with no due process rotting in jail cells is absolutely asinine, and everybody should be worried about that, because I'm going to tell you, just as quick as it can happen to them, it can happen to you.
Well, let me respond to that. With all due respect, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. That happens to people in my neighborhood all the time. I mean, there are plenty of folks who are
Hey,
serving time in jail that ain't even been
all right.
charged with a crime. That happens a
You should,
lot more than you might think.
I was raised in Chicago, man.
Yeah.
You know,
I can
and
assure you,
I'm gonna
I
tell you,
can assure you in Chicago that happens to people a whole lot.
and you know the problem is look where it's happening. Look where it's happening. What state? Chicago. What is that? DC. What is that? I'll tell you what it is. DC is the biggest. I don't want to even say it, but when you have, you're going to have thousands of people come into your city, and you're a mayor, and you don't put one porta john out, and you put a cop on every corner. That is what you are. You are no longer for the people. You are for jailing and gulagging people, just like Chicago's doing. And those aren't right states. Those are lefts. And that's a reflection. It's a reflection.
Let me respond to your statement about the Trump protesters coming to D.C. and the mayor not putting out porta potties. Considering that rally was organized by the current commander in chief, don't you believe that he had some responsibility to make sure they had porta potties? Porta potties?
Nah, it's a mayor. That's a mayor. That's a mayor territory.
Okay, if you throw in a gathering.
No, he had Trump. Hey, Trump, where he was allowed to put them, he put them, which was in his fenced area. He had it stacked. The whole back row was. Okay, that's all he could do, because the mayor controls the city.
I'm just simply saying, if you're throwing an outdoor concert and they don't have the sound system up, you don't throw the concert. I mean, if you know there's not enough porta potties, then you either get on the phone with the mayor or you alter what you're doing so that they can get access to the restaurant. Complaining about the mayor after the concert is over is not going to make your performance sound
it's not
better.
complaining about the mayor. It's the style of government. That's the style of government that you have down there. It was an entrapment. The whole thing was an entrapment. Because when you have that many people shoved into a city and you don't provide them access to use the damn bathroom, and you put a cop on every corner so they can't piss, and if they do, they get slapped in handcuffs. And it's an entrapment, and that is the liberal mindset of those cities. That's why you have Chicago, which is a reflection of liberals and black males and it's out of control. And y'all can sit here and say all you want about gun control and about how crooked the right is, but your cities are a blatant reflection of who you are.
Okay, so real quick, and I'm gonna let you continue, sir. Rich, in the comments, you're saying the host is gaslighting. I'm letting this man speak. What is the gaslight? I can't ask him rhetorical questions. I can't counter. I gotta just let the man talk and not say nothing. But how is it gaslighting? We're having a civilized, healthy dialogue. The man has stated his point. So
And I've been keeping it clean because I like your podcast.
thank you. Appreciate that. Listen, like I said, having grown up in Chicago, I understand the city of Chicago has its problems. However, there's a host of cities in the U.S. that have problems. Can you still hear me? You're breaking up a little bit.
No, I can hear you, man. I was going to say, you know where Oak Park is?
Oak Park, yeah, I'm on the west side. Yeah. Well, it's actually almost in Duke. Is that in DuPage County? Yeah, I know where Oak Park is, near Aurora.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm quite familiar with Oak Park. They used to have a mall out there, or have a mall out there, or whatever. I'm quite familiar
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had tons of family that lived there, but they've all fled.
Yeah. Well, I will
We
say
don't live
this
there anymore.
in regards to Chicago, there is a lot of black on black crime in Chicago. I'm not trying to defend that whatsoever. Some of that also has to do with poor governance in the city of Chicago. Now, even when Mayor Daley, if you're from Chicago, you know who Mayor Daley is, you know who Jane Byrne is and all. Chicago has always been a corrupt city. It is. I don't buy into your argument about its black males because
Yeah,
the mob in Chicago used to be white and the city was still corrupt as hell. It just now it's black. But
that's
Chicago has.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I have a stepbrother who still lives and dies by Chicago. He lives downtown, and that's his go-to point. Oh yeah, well Chicago's always been bad. Well, no, it
Well,
wasn't
it
because
has.
when I lived there, it was fine.
You okay? What era did you live in Chicago when it was considered to be fine?
80s, 90s.
I lived in Chicago. You don't think the crack epidemic was heavy in Chicago in the 80s and 90s? I was there too.
Yeah, sure it was.
Chicago has never been a safe city. I mean, it's worse now. But
Yeah,
if
but
you
to
go
compare
back
to,
to
to
the,
that's
go
so
ahead.
bad though. It's so bad for people, to say, oh well, it's bad now, but back in the 20s and 30s it was bad. That's a cop out, man.
No, I
Chicago's been
said
a
it was
good town.
never. No, I didn't say 20s to 30. I said it was never good. That's the point I'm making. Chicago has always had
Chicago wasn't
problems.
that bad, man. It hasn't. When I lived there, yeah, okay, there might have been some crack and shit, but it wasn't anything like it is now, and it wasn't anything like it was back in the gangster days. That's a cop out, man. It's not. Chicago is not a bad place. It has been good city before. It's just
Okay.
when you get soft on crime, and like you said, the governments are not worried about people, and they'll throw them in gulags and leave them. You start getting that shit going on, and you get what you got now.
No, I
And
will
it's
tell
it's,
you this.
it's sad because Chicago and all these cities, Baltimore and all these New York, they're so bad for the left right now and their gun control movement because their gun control is way ahead of our time and it's a disaster. Those towns, my family bolted out of there so quick, man. They love Chicago, and now you couldn't get them to go back to see the damn river green.
Well, I will say this in regards to the right wing. I personally believe the gun laws, the fact that Illinois and Chicago is loaded with liberals and it can be tied to Obama is why Chicago gets a bad rep coming from the right. Because if you look at the worst cities in America, the highest crime, the most gun deaths, the most violent crime, Chicago is not number one in any of those categories. Yet when you hear the right wing talk, it's Chicago, Chicago. In fact, Chicago is not even in the top 10 in a lot of those
I'd have,
categories.
I'd have to see that. You got St. Louis, you got Louisiana, you got Chicago, you got LA, all these places, man, loaded with guns. all with heavy gun laws, man. It's really
No, no,
bad for
wait a
the.
minute. You're telling me the city of Memphis, which is notoriously known to be high crime, you're telling me Memphis has tough gun laws?
No, not even mention Memphis. Memphis is
Baton
terrible. So
Rouge,
hey, you
Baton
got
Rouge
South.
has heavy crime. Jacksonville, Florida has a lot of gang crime. I mean, New Orleans. There's a ton of cities in the South that are violent as hell, and you can get a gun legally everywhere you go. You're not going to escape this by oh shit. You're not going to escape this by leaving Chicago. That's all I'm saying. There are plenty of horrible areas in red states, just like there are just like Chicago. In some cases, even worse. Missouri in St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri's a red state. They don't have any tough gun laws in Missouri.
Yeah, but it's also at a three state corner.
I'm
You
just
know,
simply
it's
saying, in the city of St. Louis, there is a lot of violence. They rank very high on the list. They're usually number one, and that is a red state with very relaxed gun laws. There is no gun laws of any significance in Missouri, and they often
but
rank number one.
right. What to their defense, I must say, St. Louis is a tri-state. It's in the corner of two other states too. So it's a border city, man. It's not like it's a solid.
Come
You know,
on. I don't want to sound like Joe Biden, but come on, man.
it's tri-city, man. It's a tri-state.
You
Have you
really
been there?
okay?
Do
So
you know?
that's
You
the
know
excuse. Is this a tri-state?
it's dude. St. Louis sits right on the corner of three states.
Okay. What are those?
I
I'm
mean,
not
you can
aware.
wrap it up into one.
It's not three states. If it is three states, it's Illinois in Illinois and Missouri. There's no third state that's on the corner of St. Louis.
It's a tri-state. It's
No,
it's on the border. It's on the
it's two
border. Okay,
states. It's
okay.
two
It's a.
states.
Let's
It's
just
St.
say it's
Louis
a
and
border
Illinois and
state.
Missouri.
So you got it right on the border. So you can say, like, for instance, you can say what Baja California and
You're
you know.
making excuses. You're making excuses for a red
No,
state
I'm
with
not going to get
open
hung
gun
up.
policy.
You can say Chicago isn't in the top, whatever. But I beg to
You're,
differ. They've got growing stats that are through the roof right now. I guarantee you ain't even done hearing about that place. It's gonna
I
they're gonna
would
they'll be
I would
moving.
I would implore you to simply do your own search. It don't have to be on Google. It doesn't have to be on Bing. Do it on your own search engine. Search what the
Where do
most
you start?
violent city is.
Where would you recommend me search where would you recommend me search that's not biased by the left?
I can't answer that. I don't. I
You
use
know
I
why?
use
Because
Google.
there's
I
nowhere
use
I
Google.
can. We've been censored, bro. There's nowhere I can get a unbiased media or an unbiased search engine. It's all been censored. It's all one way. It's all controlled. There's nowhere I can go to get an honest
Okay,
answer
then I
anymore.
then I can't have a conversation with that. Then if you don't trust anything out there, what
You
am I? I
tell me
mean,
where I can
you
go.
if you believe hang on, if you believe Chicago is the most violent city, where are you getting that information from?
What are you saying? It's not.
No, you're saying it is. Where are you getting that information from?
You're telling me Chicago's not in the
No,
top
no, I'm
ranking of
asking
violent
you.
cities.
I am asking you. Where are you getting that information from? You told me that. Where are you getting that from?
No, I'm asking you. You're
You
telling
never
me it's
answered
not.
the question. You're trying. You're
I
asking.
can't. I
You're
don't have
answering
any.
the
I
question
can't
with a
search
question.
anywhere. I can't search anywhere, man. I can't. I don't have
Okay.
anywhere that I can go and search and not have a left agenda running the engine. You tell me where I can go to find these stats and where I should, if I should
Well,
believe it, tell me where to go.
the reason why I'm saying this is if you're suggesting that all of the search engines are biased, then all of the information you presented, you got it from a biased source.
Now I have to get it from real people, man. You tell me where I can go. That's what I would really
No,
want to
no.
know. I mean,
You
honestly,
you you suggested that Chicago is due to blacks and all of that. Where did you get that information from about these cities?
say
You made
again.
statements. Where are you getting your information from?
Statements as far as what did you say? What did you say? Ed?
You made statements about
I
how
just said
liberal
I
cities
just
are the
told you. Okay, so they're not.
I can't hear you breaking up. Okay, I don't know. I
But
must
they're
have lost
not.
him or something. Okay.
But I guess either he couldn't hear me or we had a bad signal or something. But he's not the first person. Sorry about the break up there. He's not the first person to suggest that the media is biased. I'm fine with that. Hell, even Sarah Palin used to say lamestream media. That's fine. But if you're going to say that the media is biased and then you're quoting things that you believe is true, then when I ask you, well, where are you getting that from? You need to have a source. And his response was, well, where are you getting yours from? I'm getting mine from Google. Well, Google's not trustworthy. Okay, fine. Take mine out of the picture. Where are you getting your information from? Well, he comes back with, where are you getting yours from? Then we're not getting anywhere. I don't know where to go with that. All right, looking in the comments, looking at the.
Hang on a second here. Let's try this. Did we talk before? Wait a minute. Let's see here.
I don't know what just happened there. FAA. Let me see this here.
He had no problem. He got caught with no answer. I let the man speak though. I always let folks speak. I can't pronounce the name, but good evening, sir.
Just Carrie, it's me.
All right. Oh, okay. All right. Welcome back, man. I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. What's going on?
I looked up for you the Dick Act of 1902. We talked about it previously. It's a little
Say
bit
that again.
the Dick Act of 1902, and the reason it's kind of important right now, it kind of deals with the whole January 6th issue as well as gun rights.
Okay.
Uh,
Continue.
I'm going to read it for you. The Dick Act of 1902, also known as the Efficiency of Militia Bill H.R. 11654 of June 28, 1902, invalidates all so called gun control laws. It also divides the militia into three distinct and separate entities. The three classes H.R. 11654 provides are for the organized militia, henceforth known as the National Guard of the state, territory, and District of Columbia, the unorganized militia, and the regular army. The militia encompasses every able bodied male between the ages of 18 and 45. All members of the unorganized militia have the absolute personal right and Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of any type and as many as they can afford to buy. The Dick Act of 1902 cannot be repealed. To do so would violate bills of attainder and ex post
Okay,
facto.
let me stop you. First of all, I will tell you this: there is nothing in existence that cannot be repealed. You just need enough senators in Congress to do it. I mean, there's no such thing as something that cannot be repealed. So that right there is a problem. I don't know.
In
Yeah,
the
that's that.
republic, no, it can't because we're a republic. We're not a democracy. If you don't believe me, say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
But that's in Congressional Record House pages. You can get it through the Freedom of Information Act. Uh,
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree on that because as far as I'm concerned, as long as you got the proper amount of votes on your side, anything can be repealed. Not you're essentially saying something out there is etched in stone, and I just that's
that
not the way I've observed things. But you're saying we're
that's
not a democracy, we're a republic or something like that.
yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of
Okay.
America, and to the republic. It doesn't
Okay.
say
All right.
into the democracy.
That's above my pay grade. I'm willing to admit ignorance on that. But as far as I'm concerned, the way I was taught, as long as you have the right numbers on your side, there is nothing in the Constitution was meant to be an amendable document. If you got now they've made some things harder to repeal because you need a
Well,
60-seat majority, but nothing out there is to the point where it cannot be repealed under some circumstance.
Let me break it down for you, Barney style, as they used to say in the military. The Second Amendment of the Constitution wasn't the final writings for a fishing trip or a hunting trip. It was the final writings to liberate a nation, in which they did.
How could you possibly think the Second Amendment liberated the nation while they had slaves in the country?
Because if I have my firearms, ain't nobody gonna come and tell me that I have to do anything against my free will.
Okay, then you'll be killed. I get that. But I mean, you can fight back. People get told to do things against their free will that are armed all the time. They just shoot the people.
Well,
I mean,
that's why you, sir.
David Koresh and the Branch Davidians out in Waco, Texas, or where they're a perfect example. They showed up, they had firearms, they took a from my cold dead hand stance, and they took them from their cold dead hands.
Yeah, that comes from the 18. I think it was 1835, the Gonzales, Texas issue with the Mexicans coming. That the Mexican general or whatever, he come up to take the cannon, and they said, "Come and take it if you want it." And they went. They did. They actually attempted to go
Yeah,
take it, but they didn't go home with a
I
gun.
will I
They
will also submit to you a story that has only been recently being taught, and that is what happened in Tulsa, now referred to as Black Wall Street, where you had a lot of successful African Americans that had their own businesses. They were armed. They had money, they had houses, they had businesses, and that town, that state rose against them in a tyrannical manner, and they overtook them. The African Americans had guns, they fought back. The town just started using aircraft and dropping bombs from the air, which is what would happen right now if you pulled out your AR or your AK or whatever and tried to defend yourself against tyranny. They would use the full might of the U.S. military, which the average citizen cannot compete against. You would
absolutely.
lose.
That's where your governors and things of that nature step in, and you do have the National Guard. Plus, you have the militia, like you and me, for example. If they did become tyrannical, I'm pretty sure we'd be standing side by side. There would be no question about it. It's just the way it is. But we would have the National Guard as well as ourselves.
You're suggesting that what happened in the past could never happen again.
Oh, it could definitely happen. I'm suggesting that we do have defense through our firearms as
Keep
well.
it, and I will suggest, I would also add that even if the National Guard stepped in, keep in mind the U.S. military has more firepower than the National Guard. The National Guard does not have access to all of the equipment that the federal military has. The National
Mhm.
Guard would lose that fight.
Mm, well,
You got to
you've
be
got
kidding me, right? You
here,
really think
here,
the
here
National Guard could compete with the U.S. military?
with the unorganized militia. You've got 3 times as many veterans as you do regular army right now. I mean,
I'm talking
that's a
about in terms of simple technology. I'm talking about in terms of real, genuine air power. The National Guard does not have all of that stuff.
look, brother.
The
Like this, I've seen our air power in action, and I'm talking helicopters and planes. Uh, if I had to depend on that, uh, I just I I wouldn't be very happy. I'd put it that way.
okay,
Numbers,
and
numbers.
I will respond to Jeff in the comments asking, do you think the military would fight family? Have you not heard about the Civil War? Isn't that kind of what it was? American against American? We have several examples in this country. I just mentioned Black Wall Street. Hell, all of the stuff that happened to African Americans was American against American. We have plenty of examples of this stuff happening in this country. I don't understand why folks believe that we're in some kind of anti-tyranny state that this could never happen again. Hell, January 6th was Americans rising up against Americans. A lot of the Black Lives Matter stuff you're talking about. These folks are burning up their own neighborhoods. I could give
Well,
you hundreds of examples of Americans rising up to kill other Americans.
well, that's the thing. You also look when what was it? I don't know how to say his name, Kavanaugh or whatever.
Yeah.
When he was they was have in the process of a meeting, and BLM went into the Capitol, but they don't call that an insurrection. It actually shut down the meeting, and they had to exit and go to security and all that. But they didn't call that an insurrection. Why not?
Well, I don't recall you suggesting that BLM took completely over the Capitol building, was threatening to kill the vice president and doing all this stuff. I don't remember that.
All I know is they went into the building because it wasn't reported on the news. Of course, you had to go through independent news
Why?
reporters.
Wait a minute. You're telling me BLM took over the Capitol building and the news deliberately excluded that story?
Hmm.
Send me a link. I need to see that.
I've seen video of it, but anyway.
Well, I'm making it. Let's make it clear. I've been debating with right wingers for 20 plus years. I watch right wing news. I don't just watch left wing. I listened to Limbaugh before he passed away. I listened to Hannity and all of them. They would report that Trump believes that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist outfit. If that was happening, Trump would not keep that quiet. The right wing media would not keep that quiet. I did not hear any of that in right wing circles.
I think Fox News hit it, but I don't really watch the TV. I just watch people like you, for example. I
Okay.
don't I watch independent
All
people.
right. Okay. Fair enough.
It's not big corporation. I don't care about big corporation.
All right. Well, you keep in mind, even though the media has an agenda, and I'm not denying that, the media has access to stories, access to the elite, access to military higher ups and things like that, that folks like me and other folks on social media do not. So it would be in your best interest to pay attention to what comes from the mainstream media or even Fox News and some of the right wing media, because no matter how much we try to bring things to you, they have access to higher ups. They all have contacts and things like that. And I will tell you this, whether it's the mainstream media or the right wing media, there is never a case where 100% of what they're reporting is false. You can get a lot of good information from the media. Do not tune out the media
Oh no, I'm not
because you go
tuning
ahead.
them. I'm just saying I don't religiously watch it like some people. I'll
Okay.
catch an episode here and there, but it's not like I'm gonna go to other sources and find my information and help those people out. But another thing I want to address something you said in your chat. Uh, if the government went tyrannical and started attacking Democrats, I would stand with them to defend them as a conservative. So
Well, it depends on what they attack Democrats for. What if they started attacking the Democrats because you had a right wing leader that believed the Democrats were trying to steal the election? You're going to stand with the Democrats on that?
yeah, I would stand with them.
Well, I'm just
If
simply.
whoa, let me say what I'm saying. Now, what I mean by stand with them, if they're standing up there to protest it, yes, then I'm for them. They have the right to stand up there and protest. Now, if they're going in and doing damage to property and harming somebody, then I can't stand with you on that. I'm sorry, but
And
now if
that's
you're being
exactly what would
attacked,
happen.
if you're being attacked by the military, then I'm gonna stand with you and attack the military with you. Is what I'm saying. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
All right. All right, I know what you're saying, and I get your point. But let me tell you how tyranny works, at least from my observation. You gave reasons why you would stand with them if they were being truly victimized, and you gave reasons why you would not stand with them if they were in the wrong. If the
Yeah,
government decides to be tyrannical, the first thing they're going to convince you is that they are in the wrong. That's how they got folks to stand up against the Jews, got folks to stand up against African
yeah,
Americans. They
right.
convince you they convince you that they have the moral high ground and the people that you normally would stand up with are in the wrong. So
Well, that's
even if you truly meant to have the best interest of those who are being victimized, the
correct.
government is going to convince you that they are not being victimized.
Correct, but a guy like me, I don't really trust the government too much. So I know to investigate, find out for myself the real truth, and then once I get the real truth, then I can make a decision from that point. Now, uh, I'm speaking from a perspective such as I'm standing here and I'm watching the government, fly over and take shots at Democrats or Republicans, either one. I'm going to stand and I'm going to, return fire if they're just standing there protesting,
I
hurting.
understand what you're saying. I just, with all due respect, I don't think you have access to that kind of information. If they're flying over and taking shots at Democrats, they're going to convince you that mortar rounds were being fired from the Democrats before they did it. That's exactly what the Ukrainians or the Russians are telling their own people is
Yeah,
that
I
we're
know
not
exactly.
attacking
I know
Russia.
what you're saying.
We're not attacking Ukraine. They attacked us first. You don't have access to all the information as a citizen to be able to do the research you're talking about.
Well, I've got access to a lot of information, but I won't get into that.
Okay.
But
All right. All right.
yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I got to move it on, man. I appreciate you coming through.
All right, brother, have a good one.
You too. You too as well. All right. And
Hey, look, if he wants to stand by those who are being victimized, hey, I can do nothing but honor that. That is a noble deed. I'm just trying to let him know that essentially in every single case of tyranny throughout world history, the first thing they do is convince you that the victimized are actually the bad guy. That's how it happens. Because he's right. Nobody's going to stand up and help the government become tyrannical. But you will help the government become patriotic and protect your country. So they're going to tell you that the people who are being victimized are treasonous, traitors. They're not patriotic. And this is how it works, folks. That's all I'm saying. That is how it works. Okay, let me move it on. Mike Law, I believe we have spoken before.
To the program. Where was Jay? Every American 1,000 a month. I got my 1,000. Good afternoon or good evening, Mike. What's up?
Not much, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you too. I'm just trying to catch up because I came in late to the party, like always. So,
Let me give you. Fair enough. Let me give you what's going on. As you can see, the monitor behind me, Trump and Black Lives Matter. The reason those two are being brought up is the summer of 2020. Black Lives Matter collected a hell of a lot of money, charitable causes, supposedly to help African American and African American causes. At the end of the day,
Right.
it looks like they didn't do any of that. So it looks like the money was collected fraudulently, purchasing mansions and doing things like that. And folks have suggested that Black Lives Matter should be held accountable. Now, from the January 6th investigation, it's looking like President Trump and his administration collected as much as $250 million under the guise that it was going to be to help Trump be reinstated to power in 2020, which is looking like none of the money went to that cause. So the question is, should Trump also be held accountable for where that money he raised if it was not spent properly?
Absolutely, 100% he should be. Not even, okay, I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, but I don't care who you are, but not even the president is above the law, or a former president for that matter. And to be honest, I mean, he has worked in business for quite a while. He probably knows some loopholes to move money around, and make it look
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely. At the international level, like somebody like Trump, oh yeah, he certainly knows loopholes. Michael Cohen would tell you his loopholes.
Say that one more time.
I said, of course, anybody that's a real estate mogul at that level would know loopholes to move money around. And I would suggest that his former attorney, Michael Cohen, would know what those loopholes were that he was using.
Yeah, exactly. And as far with if BLM did get money fraudulently and did not use that the way they said they were going to, yes, the organization as well needs to be held accountable.
Okay. And I'm in agreement with you. I 100% agree.
It's one of those things where absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So
real quick, I'll let you continue. Real quick, in regards to the comments, Jay Walker said, "Isn't it legal now for Trump to keep all donations? The money he's collecting now, if he does not run, yes, he can keep that because he has not announced he's running for president. However, the money he kept in regards to stop the steal that he suggested was going to be used for legal fees to protect and challenge the election. If that money was not used for what he was collecting it for then, that is something that we're talking about, but not what he's collecting right now." But go ahead, Mike.
No, you're right. Everything he collects, if he doesn't run, he does get to keep. But if he's going about it another way and isn't, exactly, how do I put it, not bringing it to the forefront that, hey, this is how I got it, this is what I'm using it for, this is what I plan to do. If he is going a whole nother direction with it, not announcing running in 2024, which I haven't seen anything about him rerunning, which at this point, I don't even know if I'm going to vote this next election. Like, I know it's important, but the last things I have seen since I was 18, I have seen not only democracy turn into sort of a joke, but almost every president we've had since I was about I want to say 9, 10 years old. Actually, before then, starting with Clinton, he's the first president I remember. And we're from the same area of Arkansas. So I grew up with this weird sordid view on politics because
What is
every
your
president
okay? What is your politics? Do you lean left or right?
I'm a fence sitter, if that makes sense. I'm kind of like in a gray area where I can see right from both sides, but I also see wrong from both sides,
Did
if
you
that
vote for
makes
Trump?
sense.
Did you vote for Trump 2020 or 2016?
I didn't vote in 2016, and I wrote somebody else in 2020.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. I haven't heard that
Uh,
before.
no, I was just fed up at that point. So,
Okay.
and I mean, our American politics have become a huge joke. And it doesn't matter if you're registered as independent, Republican, Democrat, whatever. There is always something going on that they are not being 100% with us on. And
Yeah.
that may not necessarily be the president's fault or the current president's fault. A lot of it could come from corporations and lobbyists and the Senate or the Congress, But I feel like a lot of presidents, like, if they would just get up there, say, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we're going to try to solve the problem first. Instead of, hey, we're going to move troops in and we're going to go ahead and take what we want.
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
I grew up.
I would dare say that, as Jeff said in the comments, elections have been polarized, if not rigged, for a long time. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. I'm gonna have to part ways with you because you got a pretty loud background over there. I can't hear you, but somebody behind you is talking. You got a pretty loud background.
I'll try to jump back in here in a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and go for now, and we'll try to jump back in a little bit.
All right. It's a pleasure. Catch it in. All right.
Definitely.
Okay. All right.
Fair enough. Okay. Both are crooks, says JP Parker. Yeah. I know somebody is on here talking about they still support Trump. Okay, y'all don't believe his people now. Oh, there's a whole lot of people that support Trump, particularly in my audience. And Biden's economy does not help with that. There are folks, and also, even if Biden was doing well with the economy, there are a lot of folks who believe what happened on January 6th needed to happen, or they do believe that what Trump said about the election is valid. So, yeah, there's a lot of folks in here that still support Trump. And because my audience, at least my beloved audience, my MAGA side of the audience, because they're not even watching the hearings, watching the investigation, their minds is already made up. So it doesn't matter what comes out of it. They believe that Trump is not responsible for what happened, and they're not going to hear anything else. So, yeah, there's plenty of folks who still support Trump. Your opinion only matters if you vote. No vote, keep your opinions to yourself either way, says Eric Smith. A lot of folks agree with that. How did Trump deliver on his promises? DMAR 75. Promises made, promises kept is a fairly popular slogan from Trump. By the way, folks, tap the screen, get your boy up, 15,000, 20,000 likes. Surprise a man. Let me see my Patriots tap the screen. Trump did deliver on some of his promises. 3 Supreme Court justices. Let me just be clear. Regardless of anything else you think of Trump, you got 3 Supreme Court justices out of Trump. That has implications that will last the rest of our lives. Most of us, if you're over 35, if you're over 30, them 3 Supreme Court justices, if you're over 30 and you lean right, them 3 Supreme Court justices are going to be a good thing for you for the rest of your life. So I can't imagine anything he could have done that's going to be bigger than that. However, he did do other things in regards to the economy. The economy was fairly well under Trump. Now you can say he inherited a good economy from Obama or whatever you want to say, but it certainly didn't get any worse under Trump. So when you look at the promises that Trump made, he did deliver on plenty of them. As a liberal, I don't agree with a lot of them, but I certainly believe that going after China was something that we needed to do. I actually can give Trump credit on a lot of his policies. I don't want to sit here and come across as a MAGA or a Trump supporter, but I do believe that when he says promises made, promises kept, that there are some legitimacies to some of that stuff. He just should have stayed the hell off Twitter and kept his mouth shut. And I know my right wingers, my MAGA folks, like the fact that he talked a lot of shit, love the insults, and now you have your boy sitting in Mar-a-Lago because you liked what he was doing. All right, let me lock him up, says Miss Goddess. Where's reporting on Kavanaugh assassination attempt? Ultra MAGA. I do believe that there should have been more mention on what happened with Brett Kavanaugh. But when you look at what took place, you had a guy show up, found out that there were armed men outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house, called the police, snitched on himself. He's now arrested and charged with an assassination attempt. I mean, we can report the story over and over again, but at the end of the day, justice was served. I mean, what do you want to do? Just keep putting the guy's face on. Even when it comes to the mass casualty killers, you don't see their face constantly on TV. What else do you want us to really say? It was terrible. If you want to blame Chuck Schumer for some of the inflammatory comments he's made, you can do that. But to do that is only going to lead to folks pointing to inflammatory comments made by Donald Trump. So, what else do you want them to say? There was an attempted assassination on Brett Kavanaugh. The guy was caught thanks to his own idiotic snitching on himself, and he's in prison. What else is there really to talk about on that? I don't know what else you want to say. Not a peep on Sunday morning talk show. No, I don't. And I watched this week with George Stephanopoulos, I believe. What was the woman's name? Because he wasn't in, but I did watch that, and I don't remember seeing it on the Sunday talk shows either. I don't know what difference it would have made. Like I said, the guy who did it is in jail. What else you can bring up that it happened. And let me be clear. There is so much going on in the news right now that the notion that a story may not get as much attention as you think it deserves can happen. How many mass casualty events have we had in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks? And right now, that is a big, big talking point in Washington because the liberals are trying to get some type of common sense, as they call it, common sense gun law. Looks like raising it from 18 to 21, raising the age of maturity is something that may happen. So that's going to dominate the liberal news media because that's something that they're about to get implemented. Just like when Trump wanted to erect a wall, any crime that was committed by an illegal immigrant would dominate the right-wing media because it fit the legislation they were trying to pass. The left right now wants common sense gun laws. So any type of mass casualty event is going to get all the attention because it helps fit what they're trying to do. All media has an agenda, folks. I'm just simply saying there's not a lot of agenda that's going to come out of talking about an assassination where the guy's in prison and nothing happened. I don't know how much more you want it to really be covered other than just to, I guess we could use it and bash Chuck Schumer all day long for making inflammatory comments. If you want to bash the liberals with it, you can do that. But at the end of the day, nothing else is coming out of that story. Terry, you're right. Their common sense bill restricts law-abiding citizens. T-Pan zone, that's true. That is true. All laws restrict law-abiding citizens, whether it's a speed limit, a DUI checkpoint, every single law in existence restricts law-abiding citizens because the laws are passed based on the irresponsibility of the minority and they affect the majority. Every single law is that way. If you go to school to see your child, you got to buzz in, you got to get checked, and there's all kinds of locks and things like that our parents, when we were kids, didn't have to go through. That is a restriction to a law-abiding parent, but the right supports securing schools. That is the way it is. All laws restrict law-abiding citizens. Why do you think it would be any different with gun laws? Red flag laws are dangerous. In what way? I think I know where you're going with that, but elaborate in the comments. How is a red flag law dangerous? 11 Butterflies. Do you believe it would have gotten more coverage if it were Ketanji Jackson or another liberal justice? Maybe. Certainly with Ketanji Brown. let's just be honest. And I did a show not long ago where the title was something to the notion of are white males being oppressed or something like that. And it was from this angle that yeah, there is more sympathy currently in 2020 or 2022 when the victim is a minority. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it is. If just for instance, like if a Caucasian violates an African American or a Hispanic, it's going to get more attention than if it's the other way around. I'm not defending it. I'm just here to call a spade, call strikes and strikes, no matter who's up to bat. I say that all the time. So yeah, I do think that. So you agree with protests outside the homes of justices? Apparently, you weren't listening to the previous caller when I made it clear I don't agree with that. And I've even stated that some of that is possibly in relation to comments that may have been made by Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer. Do not assume anything because of my name. Just let you know that. Always listen to the program, listen to the broadcast. Just because I'm a liberal does not mean I'm incapable of being fair. Do not assume anything until you hear me speak. Business deals get done on the golf course. That is true. That is absolutely true. Crazy how easy it is to get that inanimate object. Isn't that the way the founding fathers wanted it? Wanted it to make it as easy as you could to get your hands on guns. Well, here we are. Here we are. Okay, the box is open. Let's make it happen. Big Nasty, do it yourself.
Big Nasty to the program. We'll keep it moving. And yes, Tim Johnston, I appreciate the state that I'm honest. I try to be as honest as I can be. Big Nasty, what's going on?
Becoming a daily guest, man. Hey, I saw
Always good to hear from you. Always good to hear from you.
what got me over here was the little clip you did saying that you saw 2,000 Mules, and I really wanted to, because of who made it, I wasn't going to look at it, but since somebody did watch it, I'd like to get your input on it.
Well, I'll start out by saying I watched 2,000 Mules, I believe 6 times, at least a half a dozen times. And by the way, they're talking about that on the January 6th hearings. They're actually bringing up 2,000 Mules.
Yeah,
I saw it, and I believe, in fact, I don't know where I put them in, but I got pages of notes around here. Pages of notes that I actually took from 2,000 Mules. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I believe 2,000 Mules did was it presented what looks like legitimate evidence that there may have been some nefarious activity taking place during the election time. But at the same time, it did not make any proof that all of that was coming from liberals. And the movie tried to make it sound like everything that we showed you that looks suspect was at the hands of liberals. And there's just no way to be able to tell that. They show guys showing up to ballot boxes at 3 a.m., folks reportedly going by ballot boxes numerous times, and they just assumed all of that was in favor of Biden without ever seeing what was on the ballots. Also, they did what's referred to as geo-tracking, and that has been, even at the January 6th hearings, that has been widely disputed as a flawed way of looking into things. I believe a construction company saw one of the owners of a construction company. Yeah, he said our trucks have been by those ballot boxes based on our calculations multiple times, and we would be considered as a mule, even though we never made any deliveries. So it wouldn't hold up in a court of law. That's all I'm saying. And let me just say this before I let you go, before I go to you. When you take out the liberals, because you would expect the liberals to dispute 2,000 Mules for obvious reasons. If you just focus on the right, you will notice that no right-wing media outlets, you don't hear any Republican senators or Republican Congress suggesting that 2,000 Mules is the proof we needed. They're not championing this documentary as something great. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Go ahead, Big Nasty.
Oh, no, I wanted to hear your take on it because, I know the guy. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know a lot about the guy who.
Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I can't, me personally, I just don't think I can trust anything that comes from him. So I'm not, I take
Well,
that as
I'll let you continue, but let me, in regards to you saying you can't trust anything that comes from Dinesh D'Souza. I understand he's a felon. I understand he was pardoned by Trump. He's made anti-Hillary Clinton movies, et cetera, et cetera. I will say this to my MAGA audience, my favorite audience. I always say this: if I had a left winger present information that was a felon, pardoned by Obama, made all kinds of anti-Bush movies, etc., you wouldn't trust him either. So that is a legitimate point to take. Go,
who
Big Nest.
who's that guy who did that? What's his name? He's a crazy
Michael
liberal.
Moore.
Yeah, I don't trust nothing that comes from him either. So
Okay, then you're unbiased. Okay, fair enough.
I'm a conservative. I don't trust him. I don't trust. I think we talked about this before. I think my party's gone off the deep end, but I just wanted to get your take on that. I had
Okay.
some I had some thoughts about some things that you talked about earlier that I meant to bring up, but I just turned 60 and it's gone.
Well, let me give you what we were talking about earlier. We were comparing Trump to Black Lives Matter from the notion that
Oh,
they both raise money on what appears to be possibly fraudulent causes. That's what the actual broadcast is about.
yeah. And well, one thing I did want to say that I saw in the comments, everybody talking about, hold BLM accountable. The founder of BLM and her husband have both been arrested and been charged. Now, trial and all that's got to happen, but that's holding them, at least starting to hold them
That is
accountable.
true.
They've been
That is
indicted,
true.
they've been arrested, and they took it to a court saying that their arrest was unjust. And the judge was apparently a liberal judge, said no, the arrest was legitimate, and they were arrested and charged. So yeah, I mean, and if this case, but my problem is that Trump has been doing this stuff since the 80s, since New Jersey, the casino that he did in New Jersey, where he brought in all these investors. He took all their money. He built up the casino. Then he bankrupted, and he claimed all of their money in the losses. He's been doing this.
Did you? Okay, I have to ask, did you support Trump in 16 or 20?
No, I've never supported him.
Okay, all right.
I,
But you're
I,
conservative, though, right? You
I
are
say
conservative?
yes. Trump is not.
Okay.
He's never been conservative. He became a Republican a year before he ran for office. He donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign when she ran for the Senate. So anyhow, no, I stand on morals, and I never liked him because of his moral character. And I was taught how to be a conservative by my mother when I was 18, and my mother was on the same plane with me. She was like, "You should have nothing to do with that person, because he's just a bad person." So no,
Wow.
I never supported him from the beginning, but he should be held. I don't. That doesn't mean that if he hasn't done anything illegal, that he hasn't, then he shouldn't be charged or anything. But the problem with some of the people on the right is that even if you show them the evidence right now, they don't care. That's why all these people are not watching the January 6th commission, because they don't want to see the evidence. The commission isn't doing any kind of opinions. They're just showing you, okay, listen to these people testify. And that's evidence. You can't sit back and go, oh no, that's not. Now they did do a couple things that was kind of squirrely, like when they took Jim Jordan's tweet and they left out the rest of it. But if you read the rest of it, they put a period instead of a comma. But if you read the rest of the tweet, it's still bullshit, because the tweet.
You sound like Attorney General Barr.
Well, it is. I mean, the tweet was trying to say that if the electorates,
You sound like him.
well, I mean, the tweet was trying to say that if the electorates were like a statute, an unconstitutional statute, then they shouldn't be accepted. Well, electorates are not like statutes. Electorates are people that are nominated by those states. They're not
Well,
a
let me ask you this though, because if you're conservative, and I have no reason to doubt you, do you get into spats with? Because most of us hang around folks who are in similar parties. I'm one of the few
oh
weirdos where I hang around a lot of right wingers. But being a conservative, do you get into arguments with other conservatives under the guise that you do not support Trump?
yeah. Well, I have some guys at work. This was before COVID. This is when Trump was in office, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of them that are major Trump supporters, and we're all Christians too. And my biggest thing about Trump with being a Christian is that he lied about being a Christian. He says he doesn't need God's forgiveness. That's not a Christian.
Trump say that?
Yes.
I
On
would need to see some evidence of that. He really said that. Give me that
go,
quote again. Give me that quote again.
he said, he was asked, do you ask God for forgiveness? So he went on this spout about Jesus and some stuff like that. And the guy goes, okay, that's all nice, but do you ask God for forgiveness? And he goes, well, that's a tough question. First of all, hold the press right there. That's not a tough question if you're a Christian.
No,
Second,
it's not. I'm
so
curious. I'm actually listening to you, but go ahead.
so that,
That really, because I see folks in the comments even suggesting they don't necessarily believe it, but I see a lot of other folks saying he did say that. That's
so
wow.
then
That's pretty. Go
after
ahead.
he says, uh, that's a tough question, and then he thinks for a minute and he goes, no, I don't think I do. I don't think I have to. I do good deeds. I try to do good things. And then he says, I eat my little cracker and drink my little wine. That's what he calls communion. So all you got to do if you want to see it, and I tell anybody who's watching right now, you go on YouTube and you type Trump ask God for forgiveness. You'll see a video. He's sitting on a stage with another guy. I think there's an orange curtain behind him. And what it was is when he was running for president, he did a stop with a bunch of evangelicals. And the guy was telling him, he was looking funny at him, but nobody seemed to say anything about it. When I heard that, I'm like, no, I'm going to stay as far away from that guy as I can. So,
That's quite interesting. I'm actually curious because that even for Trump, that sounds like a shocker. So
well,
I see a video of what you're talking about, and I don't like to hold everybody up with a video, but it's only like
yeah.
looks like it's about 2 minutes long, and I'm real curious. So I'm gonna try to play this if I can.
While the ad's going, that's the
Yeah, I
kind of
see that.
like oh yeah, that's it.
We can wind up for questions. I just got one more because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of I'm a religious person. Shockingly, it's people are so shocked when they find this out. I'm Protestant. I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church and I love God and I love my church. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The power of positive thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great. He would give a sermon you never wanted to leave. Sometimes we have sermons and every once in a while we think about leaving a little early, right? Even though we're Christian. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Frank, would give a sermon. I'm telling you, I still remember his sermons. It was unbelievable. And what he would do is he'd bring real life situations, modern day situations into the sermon. And you could listen to him all day long. When you left the church, you were disappointed that it was over. He was the greatest guy. And then, he passed away, but he was a great, he wrote The Power of Positive Thinking.
It's almost over.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I
And
do
that's the
something
part.
wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do
That's
that
it.
as often as possible because I feel cleansed. Okay. But to me, that's important. I do that.
Okay, all right. I don't even need to hear any more of that. I never heard that before, but it
So,
went exactly how you said it went. He pretty much
but
stated, "I
you
have never asked God for forgiveness." And what's crazy about it is the evangelicals go nuts for Trump, and he's
well,
not.
so when you brought up me having a discussion with other people, one of them is a Christian, and I showed him that, and he I asked him afterwards. I said, "So now tell me, do you think Trump is a Christian?" He was like, "After seeing that, no." I said, "So you still support him?" He goes, "Yeah, I have to." I was like, Why do you have to?" And he
Okay,
said,
let me stop you. And Katie
"Abortion."
Meyer, Katie, hang on a second, big nasty. Katie Meyer in the comments said, "Okay, again, why does that matter?" Remember when Obama was running for president and McCain stopped a lady from saying I wouldn't vote for him because he was a Muslim? Since when did a U.S. president not being a Christian not matter? It's always mattered. Just
Yeah.
because you like Trump, just because you represent MAGA, and MAGA's welcome here all day, every day. But let's not get skewed in our judgment. Being a Christian has always mattered.
Well, let's not.
You're literally changing the rules. Go
Well,
ahead, Big Nasty.
let's not forget though that it's not. And even if you're not a Christian, he's he's lying, bold-facedly lying right to your face. And he's using that to get the Christian vote. And you should sit back, even as a non-Christian, and go, yeah. So what else is he lying to get my vote? So anyhow, I had another guy who was and the first guy said that he would still vote for Trump solely because of abortion. That was it. It didn't
Well,
nothing.
that happens. So there's nothing wrong with being a single issue voter. That happens.
Yeah, but to me, I told him, so you would compromise your soul just for that. I mean, if the guy says he's not a Christian, what makes you think that that he cares at all about abortion? Now,
Well,
the
okay, and that's a fair point, but you don't have to care about something to deliver it to the people. Sometimes it's just a matter of you want to stay in power. There's a lot of politicians who will do what the people want, not necessarily because they agree with it, but it will keep them in power. And even though I'm 100% pro-choice, I can understand somebody being a single issue voter if it's to save what they believe is saving children's lives. That's a legitimate reason to be a single issue voter, but your point on what Trump said, I didn't think it was going to be that damn spot on, but yeah, that's almost like you were there. I
but
mean, I never
that
heard
is
that before.
that is the same interview where he calls John McCain um, a loser because he got caught. That's the
Wow.
same. That's the same interview where he had that discussion about the guy saying that John McCain was a war hero, and he goes, "He's not a war hero. He got caught, because he was a POW."
Yeah, yeah.
Why I
Well,
always
I
one
will say
thing that
this. I'm gonna have to move it on. I'll give you the last word, but I will say this because when you came on saying that you were conservative and yet you didn't support Trump either time, first thing come to my mind, like you remember the "Oh, I Love Lucy." He got some explaining to do. He got some explaining to do. But I
yeah.
will say this: any conservative that did not support Trump would remove the thought from me that they're lying if they can give the points that you just made. Because most conservatives are very Christian, and the way you stated that, it would make sense for a lifelong conservative not to support Trump. I cannot deny because you eloquently stated it or you orated your point well enough that it makes sense that because normally I would not even entertain the notion that a conservative wouldn't support Trump. But the way you stated it, I can't deny that. But I'll give you the last word. I got to move it on.
No, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate our talks. Every time it's been on a little something different, and I'm starting to really like coming in and listening to you. But when I saw the 2,000 Mules, I was like, yeah, I didn't hear you mention it. I was like, I want to know what he thought about it. So thanks for having me. And
And you're always welcome. You're always welcome. Come on back. Okay.
Make it clear. This is why I prefer talking to the right. That man is right. Whether you're even if you're MAGA and you don't view him as right, that man states that he's a conservative. I have no reason not to believe him. But I just want to make it clear. This is the reason why I do this. Oftentimes, I find myself getting educated. I did not know what he told me. A lot of you did, and that's fine. Well, now I do because I'm talking to you. This is why I do this. I appreciate, and I get callers on here all the time that give me the same accolade, that they learn things from me or they learn things from others in the audience. This is what civil discourse or civil conversation, right? Not discourse, but well, you could call it discourse as well. We got a lot of disagreement in here as well, but we're doing it civilly. And as a result, a lot of us ultimately get educated. And I see Double Up. You said you knew he said it. I did not. I'm being honest. I did not know he said that. Maybe I have been debating with the right for so long, and I watch more right wing media than I do left nowadays. And the right wing media is not going to be showing you shit where Trump is making it clear he's not very Christian. That would be something you'd hear on the left. And I will admit that if you watch only one side of the news, certain stories will evade you, such as the Kavanaugh assassination attempt. That's not being covered much on the left, it's being covered on the right. But that was a really good call. I definitely enjoyed talking to Big Nasty. And hey, the box is open. I'm going to take a couple more calls before we wrap it up for tonight, but that was really interesting. Is corporate greed a problem? Absolutely, always has been. If you don't need forgiveness, you don't need Christ. 777. I have never heard of a Christian suggest that they've never asked God for forgiveness. I'm not very religious, and I've done that numerous times. I have never heard of someone suggesting that they are a Christian and they've never asked God for forgiveness. That is an actual first. You might as well be God because he made it clear, look, I can fix my own problems. I didn't have to ask this guy for help. I figure out what I've done wrong and I correct it and I'm good. Then you might as well be God. That man is definitely down for himself. That was an interesting one. Isn't Biden doing the same thing, says 11 Butterflies? I don't know. Are you suggesting is Biden not asking God for forgiveness? I have not seen any signs of that. I don't know. But then again, remember, Biden's supposed to have dementia. Biden is supposed to not even know where the hell he's at. So can we even hold him accountable? Looking at the comments. Sure, G. Bush, you definitely, wait a minute. Sure, G. Bush, you definitely would know who David Duke part. Yeah, Trump stated that he didn't know who David Duke was back in 2015 or something like that. It's hard to imagine someone that's Trump or Joe Biden's age. David Duke ran for president, I believe, in the 70s or something like that, 70s, early 80s. It would be difficult to imagine somebody like Trump or somebody like Joe Biden saying that they don't know who David Duke is. That did not make a lot of sense. I mean, you're old enough for this guy ran for president in your adulthood. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Is it worse to say that you ask for forgiveness but don't? Fast Pass, where I'm not saying one thing is worse than the other. I'm just simply saying it's hard. Christians are incredibly modest and submissive to God. To have a Christian say that they have, at 78 years of age, or however old he was when he said that, 74, 73, somewhere, to have a Christian state that they've never asked God for forgiveness and they're in their 70s, I have never heard of something like that. Maybe I'm the only one, but I have never heard of a Christian say that they've never asked God for forgiveness in their entire life. I don't know where to go with that. Trump grabbing not very Christian. There's a lot of pastors that grab him by the you know what. Pastors get busy. Even the Catholic Church, they might have been a little less shaven. I don't want to get in trouble, but pastors have definitely been known to grab them. What is wrong with you bird brains? We're having civil discourse, Rep 8319. I understand you're strong MAGA. You're welcome here. I see your comments all the time. You are extremely strong MAGA. You're very anti-liberal, and I love having you on here regardless. But at the same time, just because someone disagrees with you does not mean they're bird brains. Sometimes they may be right, but you have to be willing to have an open mind to the point where you're willing to listen. If you're closed-minded, then they're always going to be wrong. 11 Butterflies. Christians don't judge, God judges. Maybe y'all should stop judging another's walk. Christians don't judge, God judge. You don't think Christians judge the LGBT community, they don't judge women that want to be pro-choice. Christians have been judging since day one. How could you suggest that Christians don't judge people? They always judge. That's how you go to hell, is because you do something that goes against their better judgment. I don't get that one. The guy was arrested with a gun near Kavanaugh's house. Now all of a sudden it's an assassination attempt. It's an assassination attempt because he admitted he was there to do that. That's why it's an assassination. Look, if it had happened like what 11 Butterflies suggested, if it happened to Ketanji Brown or the Hispanic Sotomayor, we would have been calling it an assassination attempt on the other side too. Let's just be fair in our statements. The man showed up at a judge's house that was on the opposite, the opposing side of his politics with a gun at a Supreme Court justice's house. And you want to tell me that should not be called an assassination attempt? It was an assassination attempt. When did he admit that? He called 911. He's, like I said, just look into the guy. If you don't think that what he was doing was a danger to Brett Kavanaugh, I don't know where else you want to look at it. Everything about the guy makes it appear as if he was a danger to the life of Brett Kavanaugh. Just simply showing up at a Supreme Court justice's house with a gun in your hand, as far as I'm concerned, is all you. If me and you got beef, if me and you got a problem, maybe you hired me and I don't like the way you're running the company. Or maybe you're a cop and I don't like the reason you pulled me over. If I show up to your crib with a gun in my hand, you're going to tell me you would not see a threat in that? You don't think that you think it's a harmless conversation? Huh? Why am I at your house? Yeah, of course. Look, like I said, if you want to judge that and downplay that, I know if I was Brett Kavanaugh, I would take that as serious as I could take it. Kavanaugh lied to get his judgeship. Okay, look. He's in there now. Say what you want, but he's in there now. Should Elizabeth Warren and Schumer be charged? No, they should not be charged. I understand they talked about rolling back Roe v. Wade. They could end up getting it from doing that. But if you don't believe Rudolph Giuliani said, let's have trial by combat is something to charge someone with, then why would you charge Chuck Schumer or Elizabeth Warren? Looking at the comments, let's see here. Can you have a future discussion about inflation versus greed? You might be above my intelligence level. I'm willing to admit ignorance on some of this. I think that greed is going to happen whether we have inflation or not. America is a capitalist country. Everything about the way we operate in this country is based on greed. You could have 4 wives with broken hearts. You could have children you never see. You could have multiple felonies, but as long as you got a successful business, they'll say you are a success. Our country is based on money. Everything we do. What did Michael Douglas say in that movie? Greed is good. That's how we operate. Now, inflation is a different story. That's usually a cause and effect issue. Some would argue it's what Biden has done with the economy. Others would argue that after giving everybody $2,000 in stimulus money, shutting everything down, and then opening it up all at once while people have money in their pockets and they're ready to spend, you got a huge demand and not as much supply. In other words, you've kept everybody financially afloat. Okay, everything's closed down, so there's no production. But yet you've kept everybody afloat by giving them money. So everybody still has money, but nothing's being produced. The minute you open things up, people are going to use that money to go buy shit that has not been produced. So you have a huge supply, or better yet, a huge demand, but very little supply. That's going to make the prices of shit go up. I could argue this on both sides. That's all I'm saying. Okay, looking at the comments. And whose idea was that? The Democrats. No, Nicole, Jessica, I can show you video of Trump suggesting that I had to shut everything down because 2 million people were going to die. The same folks that led the Democrats to shut everything down were also advising Trump. He refused or resisted, but he ultimately did it too. So it happened under both presidents. Looking at the comments here. We need capitalism. If we didn't have millionaires and billionaires opening businesses, where are the jobs? Sky 351. I definitely prefer capitalism, but capitalism without some type of socialist tenets, socialist oversights is just as bad as socialism itself. Keep in mind, in this country, we have national parks, botanical gardens, we have protected waterways, endangered species. All of that's done to protect from capitalism. If you didn't have endangered species, they would shoot every bald eagle they could to make money off of it until there were no more bald eagles left. They would kill every animal for ivory and tusk until there was no. I mean, capitalism left unchecked is just as bad as any other system. They would tear down the botanical gardens and tear down the national parks and build a supermarket there. So you can't just let capitalism run amok because they create jobs. They destroy shit too. I mean, you think that they would not dump waste in waterways to save money if the EPA and OSHA didn't stop them? So you need both. I'm just simply saying that you need both. You can't just let capitalists have control. I mean, there's a reason why you had child labor. You had, like I said, workers' comp laws. All of that stuff was created to protect us against capitalists going nuts on the people. No one said let it go unregulated. Yeah, there are people who say let it go unregulated. There's all people all of the time suggesting that there is too much regulation and you should let the free market control things. There are people that suggest doing exactly that. That's why you have the healthcare insurance so bad. Is because it was under that same guise where it was completely the free market. So if you had diabetes and you lost your job, nobody else had to insure you because you had a pre-existing condition. That's unregulated. That's what happens. A capitalist is about making money. I'm not going to insure you if you got cancer already and I got to pay a bunch of money. You're going to die if you need insurance from me. That's what capitalism does. You make decisions based on the bottom line, not people. You don't make decisions really caring about the actual human beings. That's capitalism. All right, let me move forward, folks. I'm going to have to wrap it up shortly. Do appreciate you guys coming through. It's always a good conversation with you guys. Free market is running rampant at the gas pump. Yeah, that would be, some will say OPEC and all of that, but you know how it is. Thanks for the Affordable Care Act. Well, like I say, before Obama, under the Bush administration, it's not like folks were bragging about how great their health care was. There's a reason why Trump was not able to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's because a lot of Republicans are still using it as well. Once they got that, compared to not having nothing at all, they were, this actually ain't that bad. Looking at the comments real quick. You know about illegals, you need them for your menial work, bonded slave owners. That's capitalism. If I can get access, if I can pay off a lobbyist to go to the right politician, and they'll look the other way while I get cheaper labor in here that allows me to undermine U.S. labor laws, that's capitalism. That's what businesses do. Like I said, it's not about preserving the integrity of the American worker or protecting the U.S. labor laws. It's about getting cheap labor. If I can, like I said, if I can pay a politician to look the other way while illegals come over and do my job, as a capitalist, that's what you're going to do. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Do appreciate you guys coming through. Real good discussion. Hey, by the way, let me just say this real quick. The handsome liberal without the L at the other end. I'm going to ask that you join that page. As all of us know, you can get banned on this shit anytime for any reason. There's a lot of snowflakes out there from the powers that be. I like doing the live broadcast. I get a lot of positive response from you guys, particularly my beloved MAGA audience. I have a second page, and I'm just asking you to join it because it will need 1,000 subscribers to get to being able to do lives like we're doing now. It's the handsome liberal without the last L. So same word, just take off the final L. So follow that page. That's all I'm asking. And should something happen here, we will resume the party there. I'll catch you guys later on the next broadcast tomorrow. Lunch break. It's been a good one.